Good evening. This regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is being held on Tuesday, July the 20th. The meeting is to be called to order at the time is 6:03. Everybody please join me in the pledge. We have a student that'll lead us. Her name is Jennifer Sosa, and she's a 7th grader at Jane Hamburg School.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Jennifer Sosa. Also, I want to comment on the entertainment we had this evening. Outstanding. That was the Socorro Mariachi Band. 13 members. Outstanding. I hope they win the championship at the state level. It's just outrageous. Thank you. Thank you for that performance. At this We're going to go ahead, move to item 3, interim superintendent's comments.
Thank you. President Morales, members of the board and audience here tonight. This evening I have 2 items, beginning with our why. This evening I would like to highlight our incredibly impressive mariachi students. Today we have 3 outstanding mariachi groups to recognize for their outstanding talent and dedication. We had the pleasure of hearing one of those groups before the meeting. Thank you to Los Gavilanes from Socorro High School who gave a beautiful performance. I bring attention to the students who make up all 3 mariachi groups because I would like to remind us all that they are the reason we are here, the reason we work so hard in Socorro ISD. They have learned to become the amazing musicians and performers that they are because of the instruction, the guidance, and the encouragement that they have received in our district. With the opportunities in our schools, our students have been able to showcase their beautiful voices and musical talent and bring joy to their parents, their families, and the entire community in our district. They do that by performing mariachi favorites and carrying on the culture and the traditions of our border region. The mariachi students from El Dorado, Pebble Hills, and Socorro High Schools are the reason why we work so hard to provide a high-quality, rigorous, and engaging education for all students. Thank you to these talented students, musicians, and to their hardworking and highly dedicated teachers. You are our why, and we look forward to seeing you continue to seize your opportunity in Team SISD, in college, and in your career and life. Secondly, our Socorro High School tour. First of all, thank you, Trustee Pablo Barrera, for his efforts in coordinating and reaching out to the Socorro High School community and inviting them to participate in a tour of the original junior high portion of the flagship high school before the Bond 2017 second phase of total reconstruction was set to begin. It was great to see all the smiling faces as graduates and past and present Bulldogs and team members walk the halls. I had the opportunity to talk with many of them as they reminisced. Griselda Gonzalez, who worked in the district for many years and recently retired, is the one that I remember the most. She shared with me that she had to go on leave prior to the pandemic and ultimately retired from the district. With COVID closures, she wasn't able to say goodbye to many of her fellow friends and colleagues, and especially the students. So she was very appreciative of the opportunity she had to walk the halls one last time before they demolished it. She was thrilled when she heard of the opportunity to visit the facility and greatly appreciated every moment. It provided her closure. I would also like to thank our team members that supported and helped make the tour possible, beginning with the Facilities and Planning Department, Mr. Tom Iington and Susie Godina. From the Administrative Services team, Mrs. Maribel Macias and Dr. Ismael Castro. From Socorro High School, Mr. Javier Aguilera, Sergeant Javier Aguilera, Officer Jonathan Aguilera, Armando Contreras, Heidi Mariana Gamboa de Muela. From Public Relations, Mr. Daniel Escobar, Emily De Santos, Celeste Reyes, and Andrew Campos. A very special thank you to our security supervisor and class of 2002 Socorro High School graduate, Mr. Gabriel Castañeda, who led the engaging tours to the facility to all our guests. Next summer, we are planning to coordinate a formal tour of the main campus prior to it being demolished, signaling the final phases of the project. Later in the meeting, we will hear an update from Mr. Iington on the current status of the project. And one last thing, a reminder to everyone that the first day of school for our students is August the 2nd. So let's get ready to rumble. Thank you. This concludes my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Carbona, for your comments. At this time, we're going to move to item 4. We got board honors. The presenter is Daniel Escobar.
He's not here today. It's me today. Hi. Good afternoon.
We have a
Good evening.
substitute.
Yes. Good evening, President Morales, members of the board, and Interim Superintendent Ms. Carmona. My name is Lucia Borrego, and I'm the Chief Academic Officer for the district. And it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's recognitions. Ms. Carmona and Board of Trustees, will you please step down to receive our honorees? Our recognition this evening honors 3 Socorro ISD mariachi groups for advancing to the 2021 State UIL Mariachi Festival in Seguin, Texas. At the regional competition in May, Socorro, El Dorado, and Pebble Hills High Schools all received a Division I rating that qualified them to compete at the state competition on June 18th. At the state contest, El Dorado and Pebble Hills earned a Division II rating and received a Distinguished Performance plaque. The Socorro High School Mariachi group, Los Gavilanes, received a Division I, the highest overall rating for the second time at state competition. 8 of the Socorro High School's group violinists also won an Outstanding Individual Musicianship Medal. Congratulations to these talented mariachi groups. We're going to start with El Dorado High School Mariachi Azteca. Sherlyn Avalos. Aleida Holguín. Ana Márquez. Ana Méndez. Sahid Palacios. And Wendelin Sosa. All right, students and Ms. Carmona and board, if you'll come up here for a picture. Yes, up one more. Yeah, there you go. And this is El Dorado Mariachi Azteca. Let's give them a big round of applause. Congratulations to El Dorado Mariachi Azteca. From Pebble Hills High School, Mariachi Los Guerreros. Ivan Arellano. Paloma Arellano. Ricardo Méndez. Ramón Rodríguez. Victoria Talavera. And their instructor, Mr. Sergio Ramos. All right, if you'll join us, Pebble Hills. Ladies and gentlemen, Pebble Hills High School Mariachi Los Guerreros. Congratulations. And from Socorro High School, Mariachi Los Gavilanes. Camila Bautista. Edward Bautista, the soloist violinist. Jennifer Betancourt. Jocelyn Betancourt. Christian Corojedo. Elma Garcia. Dorothy Macias. Abraham Monreal. Ángel Sánchez. Eric Sigala. Edel Terrazas. Jesús Torres. And Jesús Treviso. Ladies and gentlemen, the Socorro High School Mariachi Los Gavilanes. I think instead of a picture, maybe another song. What do you guys think? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Come on and take a picture. So probably the taller ones. Taller, the gentlemen, the ones that are taller, yeah, up one more step. There you go. Yeah, there you go. You know what, you could step down. Oh, that's a nice picture. Famosos. Ladies and gentlemen, Mariachi Los Gavilanes. Let's see, I think one more, Mom. There we go. Oh, we'll do it again. Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, Mariachi Los Gavilanes. Let's give them a big round of applause. This concludes board honors for this evening. Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and move to item 5, open forum. Before we begin, got a quick note. We greatly appreciate those individuals who have requested to speak to the board during open forum or in regards to a specific agenda item. By law, the board cannot take action upon it and discuss any item which is not posted on tonight's agenda. But we will give all presentations our consideration. We are also bound by certain time constraints in order to cover all the items on the agenda, and therefore we limit presentations to only 5 minutes. Thank you for that. Our first our first speaker will be Denise Davis.
Good evening. My name is Denise Davis. I am here representing a small army of individuals who have submitted that the new combo school in the Socorro East Lake area be named for longtime SISD employee Clarice Jones. Mrs. Jones began her career in Louisiana. As a young teacher in her 20s, she was known to shake things up. The late representative and civil rights activist John Lewis said, "Speak up, speak out, get in the way." Always one to speak her mind, she brought light to the unjust treatment of those of the less affluent individuals in her class and fought for the equitable treatment of all students, thus beginning a long career of fighting for the underserved. When her husband was stationed to Fort Bliss, she and her young family found themselves relocating to El Paso. Picking up her career where she left off, Mrs. Jones worked in parochial schools, schools in the El Paso School District, as well as schools in the Isleta District, before moving on to the Socorro District, where she remained until she retired in 2016. Mrs. Jones spent nearly 50 years as an educator, with more than 45 years in the Socorro District alone. Being an educator was one of her greatest loves. In fact, she still speaks with fondness of her days in the schools. As an educator, she served the community as a teacher, assistant principal, and principal, not to mention a motivator and champion at various Socorro elementary and middle schools, and was highly regarded, respected, and loved by nearly everyone she encountered. Mrs. Jones touched the lives of thousands of individuals, many thousands. Some of the youngsters she taught are now educators, principals, and administrators themselves. Not only is she the mother of 3 amazing children, she was also the loving wife of a career military veteran, as well as a thoughtful, caring, humble coworker, partner, and leader. Her impact was felt at H.D. Hilly, O'Shea Kelleher, Clark, and Sanchez schools, just to name a few. As the assistant principal at O'Shea Kelleher Elementary School, she and her colleagues led the school to an impressive increase in test scores, and the principal at the time, Susan Finch, attributed much of that success to Mrs. Jones and the other AP, Joyce Zarowski. As the principal at Walter Clark and Salvador Sanchez middle schools, Mrs. Jones led those schools to exemplary ratings, consistently exceeding performance goals. Malcolm X stated, "There's nothing which can be the passport to the future except education. I can think of no one that believed in the children more than she did." She believed in their potential and always invested her time to grow and nurture their minds, bodies, and spirits. She was a passionate advocate for her students as well as the parents in the communities she served, encouraging them to learn more, do more, and give more. Her door was always open. Regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, age, she was always there for students, staff, and colleagues. She showed her support by showing up at games, contests, performances, and competitions. She rarely took a day off. In fact, she donated most of her sick days to colleagues in need. She was affectionately known as a sister, a second mother, and Aunt Clarice to those who knew her and worked most closely with her. In closing, naming a school in the Socorro district in honor of Mrs. Jones would not only recognize a loyal educator who had an impact on many thousands of individuals, students, teachers, staff, administrators alike, but it would also bring visibility and much-needed diversity to the distinguished list of deserving nominees and honorees. I'd like to thank the numerous individuals that submit a nomination to have the new school named for Mrs. Jones, and I would like to thank the board for their time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Our next speaker is Tommy Hill. Tommy's got 2 items he'll discuss. We'll have them back to back. That's okay.
How you guys doing? It's good to see everybody back. Okay, this summer, I've had the pleasure of doing a summer job. We've been driving Mercedes-Benz buses, Cetras. I got a 2015 outside that I drove up here if anybody wants to take a look. But about a month ago, we were talking about buses, and I heard that they might be 700,000 a million. Well, they're not. You get these under 500,000, or right about 500, 0 miles, right off the lot. Not so much a 2021, but you might be able to get a 2019. These buses are the safest buses on the road. They're the most luxurious buses. They got refrigerators inside them, 56 passenger. They kneel down for safety for getting on and off the buses. They got dual tanks on the buses. Cruise control if you want to use it onto the freeways. They're the safest ride on the roads. For the price that you can get these for, there's nothing better. I've driven them all, driven 6 different types of buses, and when we are ready, I recommend, it doesn't matter which buyer that you go to, I recommend that we try to get these Cetras. And anybody afterwards wants to look at the one that I got outside, feel free. They're the best running buses on the road today, in my opinion. They're the safest too. 50-mile-an-hour winds, you don't feel all that well. In other buses, it's very hectic, and make the parents of the kids feel a lot safer, and safer buses too. Okay, second item, headsets. Our out-of-town drivers, this is not for in-town drivers. I would never recommend doing that on a school bus. But out-of-town drivers, you're out, you're amongst everything, and a lot of times we need to get a hold of that driver and stuff. So these headsets, I got one from Blue Tiger. It's their elite model. Cost me $140. But I'm sure if you guys ever decide to get them, you could get them in a bulk that'll work for the out-of-town drivers. I'm only talking about out-of-town drivers, just say right now. It's a good thing to do. You can answer them by command, by voice, or just tapping onto the button right there. You don't have to take your hands off the wheels or anything. You can look forward, and you can talk into it, and it will make your calls if you need to at the same time. And plus, this one always leaves one ear open because you need to know what's going on in your bus or if anybody needs to. So you're only using one ear onto it because right here, you got one ear open. So, and I think that's very important. So these are just a couple of items that I want to bring to you guys, and if you're interested, after all this, I will more than gladly show you what I'm talking about. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Both
Mr. Hill.
items. Okay.
Our next speaker is Armando Rodriguez.
Good evening, Board President, Superintendent, members of the board, community. My name is Armando Rodriguez, and I wanted to come to you all. I'm running for re-election for Region 19 TASB Director. Excuse me. And it was a great meeting to actually attend and see the success of your all's kids and appreciate it. But as some of you may know and some of you may not know, I currently sit as the Region 19 Director and represent this region. Currently, I'm the Secretary Treasurer of the TASB Board, which in a couple of years, 2 to 3 years, would make me President. And we have not had that since David Sablowski about 23 years ago. So I've been on my board in Canutillo about 16 years, and I've also sat on the Mexican American School Board Association, where I rolled off as past president back in 2017. And one of the great victories that we had there was making the state legislator push for mariachi to be a UIL sanctioned event. And now we're seeing the success and the growth of that program across the state. Recently, I rolled off the NSBA Board of Directors, where I sat as chair of the National Hispanic Council and board on the board of the NSBA. And on that handout that I passed out, you actually have some of my accomplishments. You have a bio, a letter to y'all, and then the information we submitted to TASB. Also, I do sit on the NALEO board, which is the National Association Latino and Elected Officials. With that board, I sit anywhere from the mayor, Eric Garcetti, of the mayor of LA, which is now hoping to be the ambassador of India, as well as Ed Gonzalez, which is a sheriff in Harris County, and been nominated to become director of ICE. And so one of the main things that when I saw some of the issues that were happening when it came to funding and some other stuff, I knew that these were state and federal issues, and I wanted to get engaged. And so since then, like I said, I've climbed up the ladder through TASB, and I'm just hoping to get your all support. As a region, I think it's important for us to continue to work together and making sure that we focus on student success and being able to help each other out as a region. So the reason being, I probably won't be in attendance in your August board meeting because I'll probably be, as a TASB officer, we sit on the delegate assembly for NSBA, and after that I'll be out of the country for a wedding. So I'm hoping at your all's next meeting I would get your all's support so we could continue to highlight not only if I become president of TASB, we would also get another seat on the board once that happens, making 2 seats on the Texas Association of School Boards being represented for this region. So thank you all for your all support and your commitment and making sure we work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. We're going to move to item 6, public hearing. A 2021-2024 ESSER 3 federal grant public hearing. Our presenter is Dr. Adam Starkey.
Good evening, President Morales, members of the board, and Mrs. Carmona. It's my pleasure to come before you all tonight for this public hearing and to present you all the ESSER 3 stakeholder feedback results and the 2021 through 2024 ESSER 3 plan that we have worked to come up with based on feedback, based on needs assessments and other types of study over this summer to ensure that we will be moving forward and using this funding properly to combat any and all pandemic impacts possible. Okay. The first thing that I'd like to do is summarize our stakeholder consultation activities through ESSER 3. Okay. Want to say several activities were undertaken to obtain input on the uses of ESSER 3 funding, and some components relating to addressing learning loss, social emotional considerations, safety were also included as a portion of our back to school plan meetings that Mrs. Macias and Mrs. Carmona, other members of cabinet headed up, that we were a part of through that time period. With respect to ESSER 3, this slide shows the places that we went where we specifically discussed ESSER and gained feedback in meetings, including here today. And as far as our survey, from the 10th of June to the 25th of June 2021, we conducted a survey in which stakeholders had an opportunity to provide input on our highest priority needs. Now, the way that the survey was constructed was to elicit feedback on allowable ESSER 3 activities as established in federal and state law. An example is that the ESSER 3 law says that we must address learning loss. So we had to make sure that we had that in the survey as an example. And there's other commonalities that come up that are pandemic related that we needed to get feedback on. That survey was available in English and in Spanish. And I want to say that when I deconstructed it, to present before this, there were a number of open-ended Spanish responses, and Google Translate helped me out a lot. Okay? So a total of 3,734 survey responses were submitted. And stakeholders were allowed to identify themselves by more than one category, so we actually had 4,410 identifications. I'm just going to go let you look at that for a second. Those are the first sets right there of people that identified themselves as those categories. Then we've got another set there, okay, for others, and that's came out as that. Okay. So now we're looking at top 3 areas that our stakeholders brought back to us as being the most important priorities as the district responds to the pandemic's impact. Student social, emotional, mental well-being was first. Additional staff to provide support for academic learning loss was a close second. 8 response difference, I'm sorry. And improvements to facilities to improve safety, heating, cooling, HVACs, water fountain upgrades and the like came third. The learning loss, as I had referenced before, we talked about that. Looking at focused interventions, kind of like accelerated instruction, acquiring evidence-based instructional materials, professional development, intersession tutoring that's focused were the most commonly mentioned in the responses. And in addition to addressing academic learning loss, it was the other needs that were most frequently identified. Once again, we see social emotional well-being again, okay, in that one. Technology needs come up this time, and then safety considerations. Now, the other one discussed HVAC. This one is more about personal protective equipment, daily safety practices. So we took those, and we wanted to make sure that we had a plan. Finally, we had the open-ended response question. So we looked at those, checked into them, went over them, and looked at the responses. And you can see there the additional instructional staff and time. More people typed that in than any other. And then social emotional well-being and infrastructure were neck and neck there. And technology was the next one that was statistically significant. Okay. So with that and with other studies, needs, feedback that we've elicited, we now have our plan. Okay. We have access to this for 3 years. ESSER 3 is through FY 22, 23, and 24. There is no assurance of having said funding after the 3 years, but we are going to do as much as we can with it and in need and within the law, okay, during that time period. When we look at salaries, the salary estimates are based on the average amount that is paid to a type of employee. If we have an employee in that class or grade or something similar, if we look at the averages. And then we also have a campus allocation formula, and that's going to be additional to other allotments that they receive, whether that be general funds, state compensatory education allotment, Title I-A allotment. We're going to flow that. We're going to flow that through so the campuses can have some abilities to address their needs at the local level, at their local level. Okay. So the ESSER Camp 3 campus allocation will be $150 additional per pupil allotment. It's multiplied by the number of economically disadvantaged students in the district. With that, all students will be able to have access, not only the economically disadvantaged, but we did it that way because, to do a formula, because that is, ESSER is distributed based on the Title I Part A formula, so we kept that consistent. We are looking at class size reduction teachers and at-risk instructional aides. Some campuses in feedback selected a class size reduction teacher, so what we're looking at is one of those 3 extra additional full-time instructional aides to push in to help in classrooms. Others said not the teacher, they're gonna go with 5 aides instead. So we're going to really put in some high dosage, high support to get small group instruction, smaller class sizes there. At the central office level, we are bringing in 2 new instructional officers to provide assistance to campuses in secondary English language arts and mathematics. We are going to bring in 3 new bilingual ESL facilitators to address our emerging English learners, and another special education strategist to help in that area. Special education does not end there. We identified that another diagnostician, 2 more autism spectrum disorder specialists, another speech language pathologist, and 2 more special education clerks were also necessary because we are going to see a climb in those individuals being needed because more students will be referred, and also to be able to close gaps in certain areas. And the clerks, they are allowable, and they are going to help with the pandemic relation of increased referrals, increased compliance that will come with attempting to serve every student possible. Okay. House Bill 4545 is a new law that lots of us in academics cabinet around the whole district have really been working on a lot. It applies to accelerated instruction for the 21-22 school year, and it came out just in time for us to make sure that we pay mind of that, because it's when we look at ESSER funding, to make sure that we are not only adhering to that, but being able to meet student needs. And we talk about that's going to be tutoring interventions with a ratio of 3 to 1, could be higher if parents are okay with it. So we want to support that with like extra duty pay, instructional materials. And also there's going to be changes with master scheduling as a result of needing to go through and make sure that these tutoring groups could be done during the day. There's going to be quite a bit done after school, before school, intersession, things like that. Don't get me wrong, we're going to have that stuff. Okay, but during the day we're trying to get more, so we will be looking at upgrading our master scheduling system, allowable through ESSER. Okay. Social emotional needs are very important. We are going to get an additional guidance and counseling coordinator. We are looking at additional counselors in the elementary and the secondary levels. We are looking at a master social worker, 12 more CIS coordinators, 5 more juvenile truancy case managers. That one's interesting to note because right now there's 1. Okay, we're gonna, 6-tuple that and make it 1 per feeder pattern. Okay, re-engaging students. Okay. We're also looking at hiring more nurses, 1 per feeder pattern, so they can provide some more support. We know the pandemic isn't over. These things are still important, although we've come a long way from where we were a year ago. Child nutrition services workers we're going to add at each campus because we need to be able to assist with line efficiency, point of service, social distancing, and the like. Custodial staff, we're on infrastructure safety now. Custodial staff, we're hiring 1 per campus in some way, in some more than 1 in others. That's pandemic-related cleaning needs. We need to disinfect and sanitize. We can't just clean. Okay, like my wife says, no, you can't do it como sea, Adam. You have to do it better, okay? All right, you can't do it, all right? So that's what we need extra people to do in the schools, okay? Right, and also social distancing. We're back on buses. We're getting 45 more so we can maximize social distancing on ridership. Mrs. Macias and Jackie Gutierrez actually helped us to study that to know that that's how many we needed. Okay. Mr. Iington is going to begin with his team on HVAC system upgrades, $10 million across the district to make sure that we have our purification, filtration in our heating, cooling systems. The water fountain upgrades, we're committing $1 million. See how far we can go. I personally cannot wait to fill one up with that sensor thing. I don't think I've ever actually done that. Okay, but we need that for the safety of all. Technology. Instructional technology specialists, they pair with our instructional officers in academic services. We're going to bring more. Technology has gotten huge. Library aides, we have some right now. They do general library duties. You know, you're the ones we all know. We're also going to use the new ones to be first responders on technology in the schools. They're going to be so they're going to have half where they do that and half where they also provide small group instruction to students as their counterparts that exist now will. But they're under technology because they are going to be first responders in the schools to help the librarians do so. We went from 20,000 devices to 60,000 in the past year as per Mr. Reyna. I saw a lot of that myself with all the Title I ones that I approved, so we know we've got tons of them. We need more technicians to keep that going, keep that running, make sure that we get more out to schools, because we want to make sure that although we are not in virtual learning anymore, technology is a tool that will never leave us, and we have much inventory and much assets that we must maintain to maximize student learning. And finally, kind of going back to the mastering, scheduling, data systems for tutoring, other instruction progress, we're going to get one extra software engineer to make sure that all of the things that we have to watch now that are related to the pandemic, that we can go forward with having new systems in place and add to the others that we already have that are taking care of so many things for us. Okay, now I want to return here to ESSER 1. ESSER 1 was one that we got last year. I want to say that we've expended a fair amount of that. We have 2 years to do that. We have a little bit of money left there. And what we wanted to do with that one was spend it out this year to get some more nursing assistants, get some campus assistants that will help with monitoring and social distancing safety, take care of the PPE need that was mentioned that wanted to be continued. We've done that. We want to keep going. And we talked about the custodians as personnel, but what are those supplies for cleaning, disinfecting, and sanitization? We're going to finish those out with ESSER 1. Finally, before I go to the next slide, what I would like to say is on the 17th of August, in the following month, I'm going to come before you again on behalf of our district and community to take care of the ESSER 2 public hearing. Okay? Because remember, we got ESSER 3 before ESSER 2. Okay? ESSER 2 is going to be next on August 17th. We are finalizing planning for it right now, and therefore more questions will come about when we go there the next time. But something that our cabinet team and Mrs. Carmona have been extremely passionate about as we have worked through this, we have an ESSER 3 plan that we do believe is going to work. As we look at ESSER 2 money going ahead and what we are doing in the planning stages of that, they have been extremely passionate and understanding about the needs that we have seen in our community, the way that our teachers and staff have felt, as they have battled so hard for us through this pandemic. That's not just teachers, that's all faculty, all employees. We could even be talking about people that work part-time. One of the things, even though today was to cover ESSER 3 and not to cover ESSER 2, it's my honor to be able to have have been chosen to give this message to not just you all as a board and superintendent, but also to the district and to the community, that with our ESSER 2 money, one item that will be funded through the ESSER 2 grant award will be a $2,000 retention stipend for all employees forthcoming later this fall semester. And more will be discussed on that on August 17th as we have our full ESSER 2 public hearing. But at this time, we are happy to take questions as a public hearing on the ESSER 3 plan and the feedback that we have presented to you.
You're looking at for support of the children compared to the infrastructure.
Support of the children compared to infrastructure, it's
No, well, there's a separation. You put down a lot of staff here for a new technology dude, which is fine, but where are we short already in the classroom to help the children already?
well, that would be where we have all of our instructional aides, class size reduction teachers, the instructional teachers, the officers, those like that, even the instructional technology specialists, Mr. Castellano. Actually, the percentage that, if I can tell you the percentage that's going to be used money-wise to address learning loss of all of the money that we have is approximately 2/3 of it, sir.
One of the concerns that was brought to my attention is that we don't even have enough art teachers for the elementary schools. They're all jumping around back and forth. But we can get another engineer for technology, and why can't that be focused to the children? That's my question.
Well, I would say that in this case that first, sir, the software engineer, for example, that's going to be focused back to students because of data systems and whatnot. I realize that they wouldn't be right there in a classroom if that's what you're saying, but everything.
Yes, and I know, and this is about learning loss, and there is a big learning loss when children miss that gap and have to wait for either an art teacher or a music teacher to come back to their school. And
Yes.
that is a learning loss. But technology and other, you got hardware technicians in here. I can understand the library aides. You got some clerical people in here too. But the learning loss, actually, I see it, we're short with the teachers in the classroom.
President Morales, Superintendent, Cabinet, to Board of Trustees, Mr. Castellano, to answer your question, a couple of things went into preparation of this as we went through ESSER. And I've had a conversation with you before about the art teachers, and we definitely see the need in fine arts. We're going to try to address it through different funding.
It's just there is a learning loss. I mean, they have to wait. How long does it take for the rotation for the teacher to go around through the different campuses,
Absolutely, but
And-
ESSER's very specific. Let me just explain. ESSER's very, very specific on learning loss as far as where the needs are, and you got to look at the academic piece. And I know art is part of it, but it's considered enrichment, and so we are investing quite a bit. We're trying to help teachers out with House Bill 4545. It's 30 minutes of acceleration per subject, per student, that's where we're bringing in the teachers, we're bringing in the teachers' aides, classroom reduction to help teachers in the classroom, because that's the number one focus, is to make sure that we are addressing the learning loss. I understand what you're asking, and we're going to address it with other kind of funding, but right now with ESSER 3, what we looked at was immediate needs of kids' learning loss academically. So we looked at special ed.
But an engineer is a learning loss.
Well, it is tied to that, and I'll tell you how it's tied to that. The engineer is tied to that because a lot of data is going to have to be reported back to the state. House Bill 4545 states that there must be an acceleration plan for every student in 3rd, 5th, and 8th grade, a plan and a committee, plus any student who's not successful in the testing last year or the beginning of year assessments, there must be a plan of action. So we have to create. We don't have the manpower.
ESSER came in before this House bill was passed. So
But
the
they're in
plan should have been
conjunction.
already focused on that, but apparently it wasn't. We're all like, okay, well, technology needs a little help over here, and I want that answered,
Yeah, and so what I want to tell you, House Bill 4545, I don't know why they released ESSER 3 before ESSER 2, but it is the legislature, and it is very clear in House Bill 4545 that we are to use ESSER funds for the implementation of House Bill 4545. Ms. Retana would like to
Yes.
address the fine arts piece for you.
Good evening, President Morales, interim, Ms. Carmona, and the board members. So, Mr. Martinez, our fine arts director, and Ms. Prince, our assistant fine arts director, at the request of individuals, we created a needs assessment for the entire fine arts department. It took quite a bit of time because it took all aspects from instruments to personnel to even programs that are available to help with learning loss in the fine arts. And so it went through several revisions, because it did take a lot of time, and we met with Dr. Starkey as well to look over it. And we even presented now, after 3 revisions, the final copy to Mrs. Carmona. And so now with that plan that has been established, I know that we're looking at those needs through the ESSER 2 funding. Okay? So I wanted to give you that update.
And the aides that are going to be, I'm sorry, this would be Starkey's. Thank you for your response.
Yes.
The aides, is it per campus, or is it like, how are you going to decide where they're going to
Every campus will get one library aide to address the needs that he was talking about. So we try to be uniform all the way across the school district. So the aides is one campus. The only difference that you're going to see where some campuses preferred classroom reduction teachers over instructional aides. So they got more teachers and then less aides, and a lot of it was due to capacity. Even though they wanted classroom size reduction, we couldn't put them in that because they don't have capacity to do a classroom size reduction. So that would mean another 5th grade class or another 3rd grade class.
But every school has access now to additional teacher aides or?
Yes, sir. Every single school and a lot of them. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
And I want to add one more thing, just to give you peace of mind, because we try to look at the whole child, and it's so important, is that what Ms. Retana said, we're going to look at it in ESSER 2, but Dr. Starkey and I have also been working very diligently at Title IV funds as well, where we're going to try to help in that aspect as well, because definitely we know that it's the whole child and it's across the board.
Thank you.
And we thought, and I wanted to say also that ESSER 2, we are looking to see on that, but Title IV, I wanted to go ahead and build up on what Ms. Borrego was saying there, because fine arts is something that we have had some investment in through that program, although it's supplemental, and we're continuing to look at that needs assessment to see if we can have expansion in that. So Ms. Borrego did say that to you, Mr. Castellano, but we want to say that we aren't ignoring that
No,
area.
and the other side is I want to make sure we have as much of this going to help the educators out there, and that's what I want to see.
And absolutely, and I will tell you, Mr. Castellano, when we sat down, and it was hours and hours and hours, and then we came back and hours and hours and hours, and there was a lot of pushback amongst all of us in a good way, because we wanted to make sure that we were very responsible in how we spent the money and made sure that it was student first, and academic first. So we really looked at that, and we really looked at special education and bilingual education, because those are the kids that we know are going to struggle coming back even more.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms.
Thank you.
Naras.
Ms. Borrego, Dr. Starkey. I do have a question, and I know I've brought it up before, but I just want to make sure that we are being very, very clear with the people that we are hiring for all of these positions, that this is 3-year funds, and how we would very much like to guarantee that those funds will continue. We have no way of knowing that after 3 years if our district is going to be able to afford their salaries. And so I don't want anyone being hired to be blindsided if we can't afford to keep them. Another question is I noticed on your presentation, Dr. Stackey, you listed their salaries, but their health benefits, is the district paying for that, or are ESSER funds being used to pay for that?
Well, so I'll answer both of them, and then if you need more clarification, we'll go. So the first one is we've worked very, very diligently with HR, with Rudy Campoya and his team, to ensure that we're letting employees know. We think that as we've done the studies and we've looked at it, that the teachers, through attrition and retirements, we're going to be okay. But we also know exactly what you said, and they're going to be offered that type of contract. As far as the salaries, we posted a median salary, including that salary that you're seeing includes all the fringe benefits in it. And it might be less or it might be a little more, but that median, it will get us to where we need to be.
Okay, I just didn't know if we needed to budget for
No,
their
we
health benefits as well.
yeah, Dr. Starkey did a great job with that in making sure that we included all the fringe benefits.
Thank you.
Ms. Tejera, also on the job description, it clearly states that it's a federally funded position, and it will only last until the funds are rendered.
Thank you, ma'am.
President Morales, I got several questions.
Go ahead, Mr. Barrera.
Dr. Starkey, you said that we're going to be hiring, which I'm glad that we're seeing more educational diagnosticians, specialists, stuff like that. But I know 504 falls under the SPED umbrella. But are we going to address the 504? Because not every student is going to be, if we're already anticipating for them to fall under the SPED umbrella, what if they don't qualify under SPED, but they qualify under 504? But then my next question is, where's the support staff, which I didn't see here, where if they're going to be in the co-teach, are we going to have enough co-teachers in the classroom to support that?
Great question, and I'm glad you asked that, Mr. Barrera. So a couple things. 504 is addressed in House Bill 4545 with the acceleration, and student identified at 504 it's not truly a co-teach, but we are going to give them support with those instructional aids because we talked about that. So those instructional aids that are going in the classroom, even the classroom reduction is going to help with those students because we know we're going to see quite a bit of kids that don't qualify for special ed but will be qualified for 504.
And then I also know that under SPED, math and reading and writing, they need to be an actual certified SPED teacher, but and if it's science and I'm missing one other subject, history, social studies, then they don't have to be certified in this, and I forgot. But there's something there where there's that gray area.
You did your research. You did your reading, yes. And that is correct. So House Bill 4545, are you talking about that on House Bill 45? Who's going to need the acceleration for the math and reading?
Yeah, to make sure that we actually properly service these kids and help teachers with that support to facilitate the kids' needs.
Yes, and you are correct. Right now, and House Bill 4545 TA has released it little by little by little. We sat in a webinar today, and we got all these surprises, and then they said, and we know you have a lot of other questions, and we'll address those next week. And they don't realize that there's a lot of us year-round. One of the things is social studies and science. They haven't addressed that. What we do know for sure is that math and reading will, in grades 3, 5, and 6, which is really now 4, 6, and 9, right? They will have to, if they were not successful, they will have to have what we call an accelerated committee that the parent is even involved in, parent notification and principal participation for math and reading. The jury is still out, for lack of a better word, on the math and the science, but we're definitely in special ed. We're looking at it very closely. We've worked very closely with the special ed department as well. Originally, we were just going to use strategists, and then we realized that we needed, let's say, for example, autism specialists, because we know our students who have autism, they are really going to struggle coming back to school because they are so used to routines and rituals, and so we know we're going to need more assistance in that area. Well, we wanted to, we could have used 100 people in special ed because that's a vulnerable population. We've definitely taken into account on those kids that are going to need that extra instruction in the regular classroom, in a co-teach classroom, but also in our specialized units.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions?
Last
Mr.
question.
Mr. Guerra?
Dr. Starkey, can you go back to the last page? The one item that states funded to this or grant to award will be $2,000 retention stipend for all employees. It will be forthcoming during, don't change it. It will be forthcoming during the 2021.
We don't want you to have evidence, a picture.
school
No,
year.
I'm kidding. We're not changing our mind.
So, not only, and I want to make sure I understand this, not only that this past year, that the board, we did not raise the health premiums, correct, Mr. Camboya, this past year. We also gave $1,000 COVID stipend this past year. We also gave a 4% raise this past year. And we're also gonna give $1,000 stipend in December. And now cabinet
August.
in August.
Yes, sir.
And now you all are gonna give a $2,000 retention stipend coming up.
Yes, sir. That is
Team
correct.
SISD is looking for our employees. So thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And, you know, I think that as we've come together as a team, Cabinet and Ms. Carmona and all the directors, we've really come together and we see what's on these teachers' plates, and they're the heroes in the classroom. All of our teachers, our aides, our employees, our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, they are the ones. And we were very adamant that extra $2,000, and we went 1,000, and then it was like, and then 1,500, and then 2,000, and we really believe, especially with House Bill 4545, that it is needed. These teachers deserve it for what they did already from home on the computer remotely, and what they're going to be expected to do that the legislature is asking us to do. So we thank you for your support in that, and I know our community, our Socorro ISD community, is deserving, and I know they're going to be grateful. We've been doing training all this week and last week with Sky coaches and WIN teachers, and they're so grateful to be back. So it's good. They're gonna have a huge smile if this is being recorded and they're watching. I'm sure word is spreading as we speak.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Nahara, go ahead.
Mr.
Got
Blanco.
another question?
Just a quick question. Did we meet the requirements for the public hearing? Because it seems we went right into questions. We have to invite the public?
At this time, would anybody like, as far as our public, come up and make any questions or comments?
$15th, right? Am I correct there? I'm just asking.
They
So
need to answer, not the
there's
board.
gonna be a $1,000 stipend on December 15th too? And plus a $2,000 retention? Or I want to be,
So we already got one stipend,
you're right,
right? Now we're going to get the second stipend
In
that the board
December.
approved in August.
okay, August and then
August, right?
December.
Is that correct? So.
Okay, so the stipend that was for COVID-19, that was from the 2021 school year, so it was paid last school year. The 4% board-approved raise and the 1,000 one-time payment, that 1,000 one-time payment will be paid in August. For mid-month employees, it will be August 15th. For monthly employees, it will be the end of month. The $2,000 that they're mentioning here We're going to discuss when that will be paid. We don't know yet.
Are there any other questions from our public? This concludes our public hearing.
Thank you.
Mr. Starkey,
Thank you.
Ms. Borrego, Mr. Tana, and Mr. Rudy Campoy. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Our next item is district reports. 7A, district reports. Mr. Ianton will present. I'm sorry, facility reports. Mr. Ianton.
Good evening, President Morales, Interim Superintendent, Ms. Carmona, members of the board. My presentation will begin on page 39. I'm not sure if it's going to follow the PowerPoint presentation that I have, but the PowerPoint presentation will probably explain it a little bit more. Of course, we have been focusing on the four high schools to get them ready to start school here in about 10 days, August the 2nd, and then actually prepare for the teachers coming in on July the 26th, next Monday. Socorro High School, we have been working hard and fast on that project. A lot of the inspections have come through and have passed. In fact, tonight, we had the fire marshal there this evening at 5 o'clock doing some final inspections in order to get approval on that. I signed off on the elevator today. We have a functional elevator in M. The guys that have been out there working are really pleased to see that. So we have the elevator up and running and working. We've enlisted transportation people. Somewhere, I can't, anywhere from 16 to 18 of the transportation people have been helping M&O move stuff into the building, the teacher stuff that has been stored in the existing facility. So we have been doing that the last 2 days. They worked last night till 8:30, and in fact, before they had the elevator up and running, if you remember the old fire chain where they pass a bucket down, they actually had a train going all the way up the stairs, and they were passing boxes down up the stairs in order to get them dispersed. But now we got an elevator, so that should make it a little bit easier. As you can see here, this slide you've seen, and what is going to be ready for the teachers on Monday and for the students on August the 2nd is F, H, S, R, P, M, and N. Of course, M and N is the 3-story academic area, and then that's what we have been focusing on. You saw a little bit about the demolition of the blue area. It has been demolished. We had the tours of the facility last month, as Ms. Cremona mentioned. The orange area, the existing building, will stay in function. Our HPA and our early college students will be housed in there. And of course, we have worked with the contractor, worked with the fire marshal, worked with Mr. Castro and our safety committees in order to get a safe access between the buildings. Of course, this shows the second floor, and then it shows what we would be moving into next summer. These are some of the areas that are completed: the culinary arts, the automotive lab, the science lab prep rooms on the various floors, the law enforcement courtrooms, the view of the cosmetology, and then you look at the main hallway from the second level looking down through the main corridor. So you can see that the building has come a long ways. It is still being cleaned, and our facilities are, people are still working on it. There's a bunch of people moving things. Furniture is there. It'll start being dispersed to the classrooms, the teacher's desk, and all of the classroom furniture will be moved accordingly by our staff and by the vendors who are working with that. So we are set to receive a TCO, hopefully, which means basically we can occupy the building towards the end of this week, but we will be ready for the teachers on Monday, and again, we'll be ready for the students on the 2nd. Now, is it going to be 100% before anybody asks? No, it's not going to be 100%. There's still going to be stuff that needs to be done. But the beauty on all 4 of these projects is the contractor's not going anywhere. He's going to be here for another 2 years. At Montwood Americas in El Dorado, they're going to be there another year. So if things need to be done to the building that we move in and occupy, I have no problem with working with them and working after hours or on weekends to get that done. Yeah, it's going to probably miss some projectors, might miss some whiteboards, you know, but is it will be able to be used for its intended purpose to teach kids? Yes. It's nothing like we've ever, you know, we've had this happen in the past. What was it, 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, Cactus Trail. We were there Friday evening, all day Saturday and Sunday, moving teachers in order for them to open school on Monday. Would we like to do it better? Why, of course. But it's construction, and they'll take every bit of the time in order to get it done, and we have to work around entity that provide the inspections and the fire alarm passage and things like that. Life safety is the main concern of mine. I would not stand up here and say that we would open unless those are all met, and those are being done as we speak on all of these projects. As you can see, there's the demolition of the old junior high school, and then we're prepping the floor tile or for the floor tile in the cafeteria. That's one area that might not be totally complete, but can we use the cafeteria? By all means. The kitchen will be probably a couple of weeks behind. COVID has not only affected construction, it's also affected meal service and us, the vendors supplying the meals and stuff. All high schools will have the same menu plan that all of our high schools will, that Socorro has, whether they have a full-fledged kitchen or not. We'll be serving from our existing kitchen and transporting over to the new cafeteria until we get the kitchen up and running. Montwood High School. Montwood High School is coming along. We have had a lot of inspections done there. We're still working to finalize a couple of things. We are, everything in the green, I know it's a little bit small to see, but everything in the green is what we're going to be able to occupy this school year. And then the yellow and the orange is some of the areas that we will not. Now the orange area next to the yellow area, we will be occupying that area. And then this is some of the areas, the band room, the auditorium, how it's beginning to look. We have a bond accountability committee meeting out there a week from today. I invite all of y'all to come out there if you want to tour that facility, but the bond accountability committee is going to be meeting there next Tuesday night. Of course, this is the main entry, and that's one of the areas that will not be open to the students for the first start of the school year, but everything around that will be secured, and the students will be able to get to the access to the fine arts facility, and the auditorium is still under construction. And then this is the second or third floor where we have the science labs. We will be able to turn over some of the science lab, but we will be continuing to working on some of the science labs to get them completed as soon as possible. And then here's some of the construction that you can see that that has to do with the science labs that we are currently working on the second and third floor. Americas High School. This project is looking real good. We have been able to, we'll be able to occupy all of the green area as shown on the plans. Some of the areas we've already occupied, the two outside buildings, the labs, the CTE, and the science labs, we've been in there since last spring. But the big green area up on top is the fine arts area. We'll be able to occupy that and move into that, along with the new cafeteria area, the expansion of the cafeteria area. We do have some construction that will be going on in that area, but that will be self-contained in where the culinary arts area behind the auditorium and stuff, and work can continue there when we occupy the building. And this is some of the finished product as far as the dance room, the locker rooms in the fine arts area. The dining room, it increased the capacity in the dining room into the corridor, and of course here's the entrance into the band room. And then this is the area that that will be under construction still, which is the culinary arts demolition and some of the additional fine arts demolition. And then this shows some more areas that will be turned over to the students on the second. Demo work in the science labs. El Dorado High School. All the areas in the green again will be accessible to students. We will be continuing to work on the kitchen and enlarging the cafeteria, not the kitchen, but the enlarging the cafeteria. And that's kind of in that yellow area, kind of in the center of the plan. And we are working on the air conditioning in the locker rooms. All that work should be completed. These buildings on the outside, they're just kind of floating there. They're not located in anything in particular, but those buildings will be turned over. One is the one in the triangular shaped one is the CTE building, and that's completed. We will continue to work on some of the areas in the yellow. The black box in the center of it will continue the work, but we've got that secured. And then some of the other yellow area is the kitchen addition. And then here's some of the pictures showing some completion and some of the construction that is going on with the kitchen addition. And there's the second floor. Here's some of the classrooms that have already been turned over that we've improved in El Dorado High School. Okay, any questions on the high school before I move into the other project? Because I know that that's been a lot of y'all's concern.
President Morales.
Go ahead.
I got a
Mr.
couple
Pop-
questions.
Mr. Barrera, go ahead.
What are we gonna do as far as the cell tower that is there at Socorro High School? I mean, it's really close to the school. I mean, did whoever it's leased out to, did they ensure us that there's no harm or safety issues to our faculty, staff, and students?
Yes, sir. That's our cell tower. We own it. It's ours. We lease it out to AT&T. That has been, we've contacted them and they have been involved with all of the buildings, design and everything, and in the location. So we're in communication with them.
So eventually it's gonna be moved?
No.
That tower's gonna stay there?
That's, unless we,
That's the front of your school,
you know,
right?
do what?
That's the front of the.
Well, it's
Wow.
kind of sort of in the front of the school, yes, down at one end. But right now it's under lease, and we've got a lease with it with AT&T. I don't know when it expires, but it's under lease.
Some of the constituents that I've talked to, that's also been their concern. You know, the proximity is of concern to them, so that they just wanted assurance that nothing's gonna happen to them. You know, I know it's not a microwave or anything like that, but, you know, for the public and for the constituents, I mean, I personally don't like it there, and I think from what my constituents heard is, you know, I guess they would feel safer if it was moved, and I think I would feel safer just for the kids and students. And
Yeah.
I don't know, President Morales, I don't know if that's something that we can look into, potentially moving it, for the safety of the kids.
We've contacted them, and they've rest assured that it's no danger to the kids, but by all means, we can look at moving it. It's gonna be expensive,
And did they
but
give you like hard copies ensuring like there's no?
I'll have to go back and check that on my records, yes, sir.
Okay.
But from day one in the design, that has come up, and we've sent all the communications to them to discuss it and stuff. So it's been a part of the design work from day one.
And then the other concern, and I think Mr. Castellano, you can probably share the same sentiment here with me on this. The safety concern is the egress and regress in and out of Socorro High School, especially that it's on Rio Vista. That's going to be the main one. And when I look at it, I mean, I don't want to go into detail, but when I look it up, if somebody really wanted to do some damage, it's not hard to do something and make it hard for our first responders to respond to some type of emergency, even if it was just a simple emergency because of how narrow those lanes are. And the other question is, are we in communication with the city to see if they're going to expand that road to ease that and allow the emergency services in and out?
Yes, sir. In fact, and the previous board and I had this discussion. We bought the land, and why didn't the city buy the land if they needed the right-of-way for Rio Vista? We've granted them an additional 40 to 60-foot right-of-way on our property to widen Rio Vista. That has been taken in consideration.
So do we already have a plan in place in case something does happen there to control traffic or should something happen? Because when I look at it through my set of lens, it's a choke point. It really is.
Well, we've got 3 entrances there.
They're easy to mess it up and make it hard for EMS to get in there.
Yeah, well, we'll work with EMS on that, and, but design-wise, it meets all of the other criteria that we design for other schools as far as access and stuff.
President, board members, madam. So last week, sir, we had an opportunity to go down there. We did a walkthrough, and we have been in touch with TxDOT already. We've asked for a key to the traffic control lights there on the corner of Alameda and Rio Vista. We're waiting for an answer. And we are in communication with the city of Socorro with regards to practicing, looking into what an additional plan from what we're already going to do with regard to ensuring that that is an easy way in and out for first responders. Yes, you're correct. The roadway is very narrow. I know there are some challenges when it comes to moving even the school speed zones, and we've had that discussion already. I think there's even some input that wasn't very favorable from the Water Commission with regard to where we're going to place a crosswalk. Unfortunately, these are things that we still don't have definite answers to, but I can tell you that there is a plan in the works, and at least for my guys, ensuring a safe passage to and from the school in the event of an emergency, we are already prepared for that.
And what about the buses as they exit? Because that's where they're going to be exiting is through Rio Vista.
That is correct.
So are your officers going to be present there to
That is correct.
assist
Yes,
them
sir.
getting out
Yes, sir.
very frequently?
We anticipate approximately 30 school buses. It's not going to be a problem in the morning. It's going to be more of a problem in the afternoon because they all leave at the same time. And so, as a matter of fact, I have to get with Jackie so that we can do a dry run. It appears that half of them will go to Alameda and half will go north on Rio Vista towards North Loop. We want to time that because each school bus is required to stop, open the door before proceeding over the railroad crossing. So we want to time that and see what that might do. What we have to our favor right now is the offset as far as starting schools. By the time Socorro High School releases, IDEA will already be gone, Sanchez will already be gone. We may have residue left over, parents coming in to pick up children that might be doing after-school activities and whatnot, but we don't anticipate that we're going to have a large problem other than the backup those buses might create. Then if necessary, one of our recommendations is that we may have to change the flow for those buses. If we're granted the key for the traffic lights at the corner, it'll be a lot easier to get those buses out right away and then allow traffic to flow freely. Those buses are 38 feet in length, and 30 buses at 38 feet. That's a long line. And so we hope that we can do that. If it's necessary for us to stop traffic on Alameda so we can get those buses out, we will. But we want to do it with their best interests as well as ours in mind. And if we get that key, it just makes it that much easier. So we can keep traffic there for a little bit longer while our buses are out.
Okay. Now, the other safety issue that I also have is because now that more kids are going to be coming out of Socorro High School and Sanchez, how are we going to take care of it? Have we worked out with the railroad company to ensure that the kids are going to be able to have a safe, and are we going to monitor that? How is that going to?
Unfortunately, there is no actual schedule for when the buses or when the trains are going to be going through. And that's something that we've already asked. So as far as that's concerned, we're just going to have to wait and engage and see more or less what time they're going by. The day that we were there for the walkthrough, there was actually an Amtrak train that I had not seen for a very long time that went by around 2 p.m. After that, I really didn't see a train go by, and we were there till well after 4 o'clock.
But do we have something in place to show? Because we don't. You're right. We don't the trains. We don't have a schedule, or we don't know their schedule when they're going to pass through. But is there something in place that? Because that's the last thing I want is a student. You know, if they're on their headphones and they're not paying attention,
Yes, sir.
and
Yes, sir.
we have an accident, when we could have been proactive on that.
We've never had anyone stationary or otherwise. The kids do know, they are made aware that there's a possibility. In my tenure, I can tell you that there has only been one incident that occurred over closer to Ernesto Serna, and you're right. But this was not an incident where the young man had the headphones in the ears. He actually tried to jump on, and it was unfortunate. He had some toes severed. That was a choice made by a young man who probably wasn't well in tune with the possibilities. But I'm aware, and I know that we tell them in our presentations that you don't do that. And it's unfortunate, but we don't have the resources to have someone there during that time.
I just want to make sure that the kids are, because they have brothers, sisters.
Yes, sir.
From both. So
yes, sir.
If we can look into that at least and have some type of plan in place, because I mean, if we're going to have officers on both sides from Sanchez and Socorro High School.
Yes, sir.
Before you go,
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Costian.
you mentioned controlling the traffic lights at Alameda.
Yes,
And have you worked it out with TxDOT, got an MOU? Because I know working with TxDOT, priority traffic is their roads first. They don't care about anybody.
We don't necessarily have an MOU right now, sir. We asked because of the partnership we have with them. We work regularly with them on several projects, tickets, texting, and all those other programs that come up. So we asked, and if there is a need for an MOU, we will be coming back with that. But right now, because of the sense of urgency and school starting up in 2 weeks, we're trying to have a handshake, if you will, type agreement in order to make this a reality.
Yeah, and I would look into a little further. I know that they're gonna look at, you're gonna get complaints because you're gonna stop the traffic. And I know when you were on Alameda, the entrance and exit was on Alameda, that was pretty quick, but
Yes, sir.
running 30 buses through a narrow road coming out on Alameda is gonna stop traffic considerably. And if they start getting complaints, they're just gonna tell you.
I don't anticipate.
They're gonna tell you no.
Yeah, I
So
don't
we can
anticipate.
get ahead of that. That's.
Yes, sir. No, I don't anticipate, I'm sorry. I don't anticipate that it'll be longer because we had the same number of buses for the last couple of years at the front of the school. And those buses are out of there in a couple of minutes. Probably about the same time that the light change would sit at Alameda and Rio Vista. The need for the key is just in the event
No, I
that-
understand, that's important.
Yes,
but
sir.
We may get to the point where we step on TxDOT toes, and they're always my road first, and
Yes, sir.
I
No,
dealt with that.
I totally
So
understand.
And I want to make sure we are working that out right now before we get to that point.
Yes, sir.
And of course, it's all going to come down to getting that Rio Vista widened, and
I don't know about that.
we need to hear something about that, and we need to look
Yeah.
into that and stay on that.
I
To me, that's a
understand.
priority there, because people are gonna not wanna wait for the Alameda traffic and try to beat the train going northbound. I know the railroad won't give you any schedules at all, mostly because of Homeland Security stuff.
Yes, sir.
So, and I hate to think that somebody's gonna try to beat that train when they can't go the other way. So we need to anticipate that, and it's gonna be caused because of our our traffic congesting that area. So we need to anticipate that in these, we have to assign somebody, we have to assign somebody. And
Yes, sir.
keep an eye on that.
I totally agree. I can tell you, like I said, we've never had any issues other than that one with Ernesto Serna, and that was unfortunate, but it was a choice made by the young man, and you know what? After that, we haven't had any issues. With regards to the widening, is my understanding in speaking with partner over in Socorro is that there is a conversation. However, it's going to require multiple entities because you have the railroad, you have the water reclamation, you have the county, and then the city of Socorro that will all have to come to an agreement, is my understanding. Thank you.
Mr. Ryan?
Thank you, Chief.
And I just got a text. My staff member has been in contact with the city. And unfortunately, the Walmart side or the Ideal side of the street of Rio Vista, no right-of-way. All of the right-of-ways are on our side, which we granted. So we're working with the city on that, and the city basically is kind of in a little, they're planning people. I don't know who's taking over the planning department, but we're working with them, and we're working with the Rio Vista. But like I said, we have allowed on our side a right-of-way in order to widen Rio Vista. And we'll work with the city on that.
Also, while we're on the Socorro High School, it was mentioned about the tower in front of the school. And it's our tower, but leased to...
Yeah, it's under lease to
Yes.
AT&T.
And the concern is, yes, the RF coming off that tower into our children in that school. They're going to tell you, yeah, it's within margins and it's safe,
Yeah.
because they want to use the tower for as much as possible. That is a big concern for me. I worked radio, I worked LMR, and I understand constant exposure to RF, and it does take its toll on you. And because the children are still developing, we need to take that in consideration. To me, that tower is too close. It needs to be addressed immediately.
Well,
Well,
I'll look into it, but it was under contract when we
Yes.
started this project. So we've got, I'll get with legal and we'll look at the lease and everything. And if it's the initial term.
Well, the lease, it's the safety of the children.
Yeah.
Yes. And the teachers and the
True.
faculty in there, that's the concern.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary. That is a low tower, I know, because because of the cell pattern, so we don't interfere with Mexico, so that the frequencies coming off, it's lower down to the ground than you would see a normal one north of the freeway, where they're trying to get a bigger pattern. It does need to be addressed. We do need to look at that prior to the school opening
Okay.
for the safety of the children. That's what I'm seeing right now.
Okay.
Are you gonna, can you guarantee that there's gonna be no effect on the children? See, that's where it's gonna come down to.
Yeah.
We're aware of a problem. It's our tower, and if we
Right.
have to move it, we have to move it.
Yeah. Like I said, it's been a part of the original design, but let me pull out the documentations and then I'll get some information on it and then bring it back.
Mr. Harrington, that tower's been there how long? How many years? And if I'm not mistaken, how many cell towers do we have at America's High School? Don't we have like 3 at
We
America's
got,
High School?
yeah, 2 at Maricus, and we got a total of 6 cell towers all over the district.
This is right up to the building. That's
Yeah,
the
the
concern.
proximity.
Yeah.
But
There's
at
no
America's High
room
School,
for the,
America's High School, we also have them in the back,
Yeah.
correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
By the baseball field.
By
if
the
I'm not mistaken?
baseball fields. Yeah, there's 2 of them by the baseball field. We got 2 over at East Lake, or 1 over at East Lake, between the baseball fields and the athletic area.
All the cell towers we have, they're inside schools. I mean,
They're within the side of the property of the school, yes, sir.
had any problems, any issues prior?
No, sir,
No one's complained?
not to my knowledge. But we'll look into it, and
But
yeah.
It's the
A
proximity.
cell tower in a baseball field, it's not somebody sitting there 8 hours a day next to the tower, which we're gonna have at the high school. And that's the concern.
Lake Tower's not in the baseball field. You can see it when you drive by.
Yeah.
Kids pass by.
It's the proximity, and it's like anything else. You know, the distance, the shielding from the frequencies is
Kids
important.
pass by there, the baseball field, kids pass by there regardless. Kids pass by there all the time.
Yeah, but they're not
They're
sitting
not
in the
there 8
classroom.
hours of the day.
kids pass by there.
Mr. Morales, I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Nahara.
Thank you. Just a comment. Unfortunately, you know, the situation right there by Socorro High School and what the city of Socorro seems to do for the commercial properties out there, you know, it's extremely frustrating that if we want a right-of-way out there, it's always us that has to give stuff up. I remember not too long ago, they expected us as part of our construction to pave the sidewalk for IDEA schools. And it'd be nice if at some point, if it is in the interest of those students who are also part of that city of Socorro, if they actually forced the business community there to give up on their side too. Because when they take it from us, paying for it twice, out of tax dollars and out of the funds for our students, because those funds should go to the students, not to try and give it right away there. So it'd be nice if someone at some point for the city of Socorro, or for all of us, to advocate to the city of Socorro too, because sitting here trying to get Mr. Ironton and the rest of his staff to do something, they're trying to do it all the time, and we've been trying to do it, and I say we, because this isn't a new conversation. It's something that happens over and over and over again, and here it is yet again, but it's us up here that need to pick up the phone and call and make demands of them to give back to the students and quit taking from them.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Nahara.
Let me finish up my report. I think the SAC 2, we are finalizing the bid documents, and that should go out for proposals here in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully August or September we'll be bringing a proposal back as far as the bids. There's some activity. They've been calling the office, wanting to know when we're going to put it out. So it's on the line to be put out this month, and then we'll bid it, and then we'll bring proposals back. The auxiliary gyms, bid package 1 is complete. We're utilizing those. Bid package 2 should be complete. They are putting in the last vinyl flooring in the gyms as we speak, and my indication is that we could possibly have all of these 5 gyms in bid package 2 turned over before school starts for use by the students. And then here's, you can see Vista del Sol's floor is done, Horizon Heights, Loma Verde, and Myrtle Cooper, and then there's another flooring at Sierra Vista. Bid package 3, of course, we have a little bit longer to complete on that. However, that bid package is moving fast, and they should complete that ahead of schedule. And you can see that they're almost as far along as some of the projects in bid package 2. And then there's Waco in the inside, and then Robert Rojas. The building outside and front is essentially complete, but we've pulled everybody off and basically said that we're going to focus on the high schools until we get the schools open, and then we'll move into the new technology support facility. As you can see, they've done some of the work in between the 2 buildings here, and we've got furniture in place, and they're just doing punch lists and miscellaneous cleaning. Pebble Hills and East Lake, the field lighting is on schedule. We have been drilling holes for the light pole base at Pebble Hills, and we should start that at East Lake. We've run the power out to them, and in fact, I think we're going to have a power shutdown and move the service over on Friday morning early. Should not affect the school any. And then the new combo school, the final school is, it's moving along. There's a lot of stud wall going up. A lot of the exterior walls have been put up on the elementary side. Of course, the elementary side will be finished a year from now. And then the middle school, which is towards that white building on the upper slide on the right-hand side, back towards is the middle school, and that will be completed in December. And you can see that we've got structural going up on the roofs on the combo school. And that completes my report, if there's any other questions.
No other questions? Thank you,
President
you.
Morales.
Mr. Ianton. Ms. Carmona does have comment.
I just want to thank you, Mr. Ianton, and all of the people that are in your department for given all the construction that we're having in our district. Thank you for your leadership in that, and also all the other departments who are helping support our schools in making sure that they open ready on August the 2nd. That includes the technology technicians that are helping with installation, as well as transportation department and all campus custodial service that are working extra hours, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and it's not only us, but it's y'all. It's a team effort, and we couldn't get it done unless everybody's involved in it, so it's a team effort. Thank you.
This time we've got item 7B, Safety and Security Committee updates. Our presenter is Maribel Macias.
President Morales, Interim Superintendent Carmona, members of the board. Behind me, we have our amazing safety team that is coming slowly but quickly because I hear them. I just want to personally thank them during this interesting, if not ever-changing pandemic. They have kept us informed and they have kept us safe throughout this time. At this time, Dr. Ismael Castro, Emergency Operation Manager, will lead us through our biannual Safety and Security Committee update.
Good evening, everyone. Board President Morales, our Interim Superintendent Carmona, school board members. This is truly, I'm Ismael Castro, Emergency Manager. This is truly a whole team approach, and it starts with everybody. And we do have some of our safety members here. If you all could stand in our audience, they'd be recognized. Our safety team members, the committee. I know we have quite a few in here. And thank you to all the work, because they are pivotal in everything that we do. Chief Castorena, Ms. Macias, Sergeant Delgado right behind me here, and our security supervisor, Ms. Hernandez. They're all pivotal in everything that we do here. So thank you all. Thank you so much. Alrighty, so we do our set response protocol, our emergency drills to secure, lockdown, evacuate, shelter, and hold. So we're required by state law, Texas Education Code, to conduct these drills. And on there, you'll see on your manual there, the frequency that we have to conduct the drills. So we go through all this every year. And so one of the things that we do is we train a lot. Our school administrators are trained with the SRP, Static Response Protocol, through the Texas School Safety Center, and we turn around that training to everybody within our schools, and within our school district at the non-instructional facilities. So this year, from all the drills that we did this past year, we did 867 of them. And again, this is state law now, about over a year old now, 2 years old now. It's Texas Education 37.114. We're conducting our drills at our schools. Okay. We also do a lot of the active shooter training. We actually finished up this year. We started off the year with training our assistant principals and our principals, over 140 of them, and we do the trainer model. So what they do is we train them, and they turn around the training to their campuses. Actually, with their professional development week, they're going to go back and train everybody. And the way we do our train for active shooter training is it'll be myself, Sergeant Delgado, and Officer Hernandez will do the training for everybody. So we're certified through the alert organization for civilian response to an active shooter event. So we turn that training around to everybody, and then we go back around and train everybody in our schools. Alrighty. And we also, with our security, we're actually ramping up our security training. We've done our crisis prevention trainings for our security personnel. I want to especially thank our special education department because they were instrumental in providing that training to our security personnel, so thank you so much. And then we also do the Stop the Bleed training. So again, this is House Bill 496. We've been training a lot of folks, our transportation, our security services, our nurses, that we partner through the Department of Public Safety, DPS, and Sergeant Delgado is our point of contact for that. And he basically works with them. They bring in the training, and then we schedule the training for everyone. So we also trained our special education department. They came in and got trained as far as how to use the tourniquets in case of emergency. I know we're so in tune with active shooter events and using the tourniquets, but in our schools and our daily operations, there's accidents that may happen, and these come in handy. We also have our AEDs, so each of our AEDs in our campuses, they have the tourniquets in there, so they're available to our campuses for that in case something happens there. So far we've trained 103 individuals. We also have done our COVID testing and also our vaccines throughout the school district. We trained, and I kind of chuckle because it was really, this is a whole team approach. And this room, the way it's set up here, I have other visions of this room because we trained a lot of administrators, teachers came through this room to be trained COVID testers. So kudos to all our campuses. Each campus was certified as a COVID testing site, and they went through the process. We had to take an online test through the Texas Division of Emergency Management, TDEM, and then we're certified, and then we turned the training around to everybody. So they came through this area right here, they got trained, and they actually got COVID tested. And we started this back in October, last part of the month, when TA released all the PPE and COVID tests to school districts. We're able to turn around that training to everybody. So we started in November, December, and then we really ramped up to have the testing over in January at our campuses. So it really, really helped. So here's some of the pictures from our campuses as they set up their sites and they started doing the COVID testing. Some of the more pictures here. Or COVID site, and they did a great job. They did a great job. So they had to set up certain tables, they had to have the QR codes, they had to wear the PPE, the shield, the face masks, N95 masks, the gloves, the gowns, and they did a great job. We had to train them how to put everything on. We're educators, so we're not in the medical field. So when Texas Division of Emergency Management rolled this out to us, they had a non-medically trained piece of it, and we all did this. So they showed us how to do all that. We trained everybody in our school system. So here's some more pictures from our schools. Now, again, they did a great job. They did a great job. And we also continue the testing here at the DSC in transportation. So here's some numbers. Our district, and kudos to our school district, because over 55,000 people got COVID tested in our school district. And then also we partnered with the city and the state, Texas Division of Emergency Management, and we're able to test over at the SAC. And that's to remember again the phone call from Chief Rodriguez from the Office of Emergency Management telling me, Ismael, this is on a Saturday. I think we're doing graduations back then. He goes, can we set up a COVID testing site on Monday, up and running on Monday at the SAC? So we were there on Sunday, setting up tents, setting up whatever we could, and we helped the city, and we got the site up and running. So with that, we tested 76,000 people. It was open to the public. It was open to our employees here in our school district. Over 132,000 people were tested in our school district. That included the SAC, and that included also all our campuses. So great job with our school district in getting that out to our community and to our stakeholders here. We also did our vaccines, and I do have Ms. Kelly Moreno here, and also from the employee clinic, and Ms. Madrid here from our nurse manager, and we teamed up with anybody. They had the COVID vaccine from Immunize El Paso, UMC, Providence, Hospitals of Providence, UTEP, the City of El Paso, obviously our employee clinic, and we provided vaccines. This started back in February. We started rolling out all the vaccines, and our police center, our SISD Police Dispatch Center, our headquarters there serves as a hub for our COVID-19 vaccine. And I'm looking across our school board members. I think some of you have seen the site. And I'll tell you what, we have it down to clockwork where if they were to call right now, we could have it run in 2 hours because we know how to set up the system. We know, and they come in and basically give the COVID-19 vaccine. So kudos to our police department and everybody that partnered with that. So here's some pictures from our vaccinations efforts. And this is at police services. We did do some at our schools, and you'll see some of the pictures coming up here. Okay, you see some from the Hospital of Providence and the Immunize El Paso. You saw that. Most of these pictures are from our police headquarters where we did the vaccinations. I'm looking at the picture here, bottom left-hand corner. That was one of the first sites we did over at Socorro Middle School. At Sanchez Middle School. We did a site there, and we went out there, we walked through the site, we set up with everybody, and then we ran with, I think it was this one was with our employee clinic, and we started the vaccinations there. We also recently did them over at Socorro Middle School, so we started hitting those areas out in the rural areas so that way people can have access to the vaccine. Okay, here's some more pictures on our vaccine. And we have a calendar going for our vaccinations. Started back in January. First one was January the 9th, where we were able to vaccinate people using police services as a drive-through facility. And then all the way through February, you see the different vaccination sites. March, we continue with that. And then April, May, June, and then I want to point out here, July, this week, we're actually vaccinating folks this week at our schools. And what we did is we partnered with the city of El Paso, and we actually set them up at our registrations. So when the kids are coming in to register, especially we're targeting the 12 and under. So when the kids are coming in to get registered, we're setting up the sites right next to the registration area, so that way they can get vaccinated. So we offer it to them. We're going to have one tomorrow over at Hernando. We have the site already set up, and then we're going to have East Lake High School, Slider Middle School, and then Herschel Antoine. So we have those sites set up. And one of the things when we did our site walkthrough today with East Lake, the city of El Paso, it's a fire department that's doing the vaccinations. They're open to setting up wherever they can. So they're attaching themselves to a lot of activities throughout the city to be able to offer the vaccine to folks. Okay. And I want to go quickly through this next slide here. Some of the numbers and some of the numbers here as far as our vaccinations. Okay. And I'm sorry. In the bottom of the slide there, you'll see how many vaccines have been given out through our school district. 11,000 vaccines. That's to employees and students and at our different facilities, whether at our campuses or whether it's police services. Okay. And one of the things we're going to be setting up here is our multi-year, multi-agency active shooter exercises. What we're going to do is we're going to partner with different agencies in coordination with our police services, and we're going to set up a schedule, and we're going to start doing active shooter actually exercises at our campuses. One of the things that we found out is we're going to set them up. Obviously, we're going to go through the process of setting up with the schools, and we're looking at doing them during intercession. So this first year here, you have 2022, and I don't think you have that in your booklet. We just added on that. So if you're looking at your book, you won't have that. Well, we can provide you with PowerPoint so you can have this. So you'll see that. You'll see October of 2022. Okay, and we're looking at different campuses, so that way our police officers and different agencies are involved, so they can get familiar with the campuses. Okay, and then October of 2023, moving forward. One of the things you'll notice here, the different agencies we're partnering with, obviously is going to be our law enforcement agencies and the different emergency management organizations, which is the city, the county, TDEM, local fire, so that way they know our facilities whenever we do any of these exercises, and we'll be more than welcome to be part of the exercise. October of 2024, we do another exercise. We're looking at different facilities. On this one, we'll be looking at a K-8 school. And then October 2025, we're going to look at a combo school, Lujan Chavez and Sunridge, to do the exercises there. And October 2026, we're going to do it at one of our non-instructional facilities. Okay. That's all we have for our report. And again, before the question, I just want to thank the board, Ms. Carmona, for your support. Everything that we do here is geared towards keeping our students and our staff members safe. And it's a lot of training. It's a lot of training, and then as human beings, as we go into the next year, a lot of retraining, because people need to get, just keep on training and letting them know about our procedures, and especially our Safety and Security Committee. Thank you for everything they've done for our school districts. So at this time, if you have any questions.
Do we have any questions here? Dr. Castro, we appreciate your presentation. And I want to, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank the safety and security team, along with all the members that support you and support our district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is consent agenda. Are there any items?
Motion to approve consent agenda?
Second.
Can we go ahead, Mr. Castellano, you'd like to pull a couple items before we, okay.
Motion to approve consent agenda except item E2?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Nahara, Michael Nahara, and a second by Mr. Pablo Barrera to approve the item as presented. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. We're going to go ahead and discuss the item that was pulled at this time. I believe it was item E3? E2, sorry. Go ahead and,
It's me again. Hi.
consider, let me make sure we got E2 agreement, and consider approval of contracts agreement. Go ahead.
I don't know who pulled it. I'm
I
not
did.
quite sure. Oh, hi, Mr. Castellano. How are you?
doing? Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, it's item Education Center, Service Center, Region 19, TEEX Resource System. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can you explain that real quick?
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to. So the TEEX resource system is what we use. It's part of our curriculum. That's what we use to vet. Well, our curriculum is the TEEX, and then what the TEEX resource system does is it, if we didn't have it, it would make us. I'm trying to put it in layman's terms so that you would understand it. But what it does is it creates a year at a glance. It helps us with how the TEEX are taught. In our, when we're doing our planning. It writes the curriculum for us per se, and what it does is that because we don't have curriculum writers in the district, and many districts in Texas use it as well, and I want to give it justice to explain it to you in that aspect.
And I understand, so this is important. This is an important program.
Yes, absolutely. Well, because we don't have the personnel to write curriculum, so what it does is it writes the curriculum for us, it lays it out for us.
And the whole reason I pulled it is to just, it's $300,000.
Yes, sir.
And it was brought to my attention that this is underutilized, that it's not used to its full potential. And that is my concern. If it's so important to the district, why isn't it being used fully? I mean, and you can answer that if you wish.
I'd like to.
Yes.
So when I became the chief academic officer about 3 years ago or so, I think there was some systems in place that need to be in place, and we started an audit. And as a matter of fact, Ms. Carmona is the one that put the audit in place. We have established systems. We're, as a matter of fact, getting ready to come out of that audit. So what we've done is we've put systems in place to ensure that we're making sure that it's used during planning time, that it's used during PLC time, making sure that we have those checks and balances. As a matter of fact, our usage and the way that we use the TEEX resource system has improved so much in the last 3 years that Region 19 even asked us to do a video to present in the state of Texas because of the huge improvement that we did. So your statement might have been true, and I think that we could always improve on our practices. Don't get me wrong, Mr. Castellano. Constantly we're trying to do that.
And that's exactly what I want to get to. And
yeah.
It was also brought to my attention that there were other programs that were, well, you know what, that'll come up later. But I understand the importance of this, and now we're utilizing it to its full potential because that is a lot of money. And if you all want the money for the programs, it has to be used. And that's why I pulled it, to make the emphasis on this. I know I've heard TEEX, that word, a million times from my wife.
Yes.
And I understand how important it is. But if it's not being utilized, then there is something in the system that is not ensuring that we are using it properly.
Yes, sir, and I think that you have a very valid point, and we're actually creating systems now in place for the other thing you were talking about, to ensure that we're not duplicating services, that we're not wasteful with the money, to making sure that we have those systems in place to ensure that we have those checks and balances so it is being used. But I could guarantee you the TEEX resource system, in the last 3 years, we've seen huge improvement in the usage, been working very closely closely with the assistant superintendents, and they ensure that the principals are using it with their teachers during that PLC time. They monitor that process. We have Mr. Garcia, I had him come up here because he works very diligently with the Sky coaches and the instructional officers to ensure that we get the processes out, the systems out, and then the assistant superintendents help us to make sure that they're being used at the school level. But when we do all our planning, like last week we had the Sky coaches, this week we had the WIN, TRS is a big part of it, and we need it. Like I said, we don't have curriculum writers in the district to help us with that curriculum.
Thank you. I have no further comment.
Okay. Do we have a motion here to?
I motion that we accept the agreement.
Second.
Thank you.
I have a motion by Mr. Castellano and a second by Ms. Nahara. Ms. Nahara. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Good. The next item is new business, number 9. Consider approval of revision to local policy DCE and FDA. Our presenter is Maribel Macias.
President Morales, Interim Superintendent Ms. Carmona, and members of the board, administration recommends approval as presented within your board packet, page 157 and on.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Nahara and a second by Mr. Nahara to approve this item as presented. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Macias. Item 9B, discussion of possible action regarding proposals for superintendent search service. Our presenter is going to be Tony Reza. Go ahead, sir.
President Morales, Interim Superintendent Carmona, and members of the board. In your packet is a proposed timeline for the selection of a firm to provide superintendent search services. That timeline recommends having a special board meeting for the board's review or interviewing of the firms submitting proposals and the selection of the firm to conduct this service. You also have the minimum requirement for the firms or individuals submitting proposals, as well as a listing of the additional information that will be requested as part of the solicitation that is being requested. The administration is requesting guidance on whether to move forward with this solicitation, and if so, if the timeline listed is satisfactory. And finally, if you would like to amend or add to the minimum qualification that was listed on page 163. So I'll just list the minimum qualification that we're listing currently is 10 years of experience. If the board feels that's too high, we can certainly amend it to 5 years or 3 years. But we feel that the firms of the 4 firms that submitted proposal the last time, 2012, we feel like at least 3 of them would meet that qualification. We're also looking at a timeline if the board wants us to proceed. We were on Thursday, we would start soliciting the solicitation. We'd send it out. We're looking for 2 weeks of advertising this solicitation. We'd look at around August the 5th to see if we have solicitations that meet the requirements. If the board's desire, we can extend it another week, and then certainly review the proposals on August the 12th to the 13th. We would then look at the submittals, make sure that they meet the minimum qualifications, and then we would present to the board and recommend a special board meeting where the firms that meet the qualifications would present their qualifications, their history, their philosophy, their timeline to the board, and the board would make a selection. So that, I guess, a special board meeting, we're probably looking at maybe late August or early September. So we're asking for guidance. Is it the board's desire for us to move forward and use this timeline that's listed?
Motion to approve the solicitation with option 1. Sorry. Motion to approve, correction, motion to approve or to move forward with the request for solicitation with the application of option 1, which is the administration internal review for minimum requirements. The board would not see any solicitations that are submitted for organizations that don't meet the minimum requirements.
That's correct, sir.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Michael Nahara and a second by Mr. Castellano to approve the item as presented. Is there any further discussion?
Discussion.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Guerra.
I think at this time, obviously, we do need to do a superintendent search, but I think at this time, I think we're rushing it. The reason why I say that we're rushing it right now is that right now, the district is under a TA investigation, and I think that if we rush it right now, I think we should wait until the TA investigation comes to a conclusion, because if we go out for a superintendent search, we're not gonna get qualified candidates to come out and apply for SISD. I mean, we have a great district, but people that are going, good qualified candidates are not gonna wanna qualify, or not gonna wanna apply and wanna look at our district, because we're under investigation right now. And I think if we wait till we finish the T investigation, and we don't know how long this is gonna take, it might take a couple of months, it might be shorter. I think if we wait a couple of months, wait till this T investigation is over, and then we go for a search firm. I don't think at the moment we're in a rush to do this right now. I think we're doing, Ms. Carmona's doing a great job. We have a great cabinet behind her. I think if we wait, see what's going on, once the T investigation's over, and then we go out for a search firm, and then we'll get better candidates to apply for the position, and then we won't rush this. I think that's the best way to go about it. We want to make sure we have the best qualified candidate to come and work for Team SISD. And I think we shouldn't rush this. It's only been a month and a half, maybe I think a couple of weeks, and I think we're just rushing this for no apparent reason, and I think we're not going to look out for the best candidate. I think that we should sit back and wait a minute for, hold on. There's no reason to go out there and rush this. For search firms, it's going to take about a month. And I think we should just sit back and wait for a minute. We have a great staff behind us. They know what to do. And I think we should just wait until the TA investigation is over.
With all due respect, Mr. Guerra, a TEA investigation could take up to a year, and possibly longer than that. If we were to wait for that, it would be difficult for our district to work without a superintendent. But that is what normally something like accreditation investigation takes, up to a year to possibly a little longer, depending on the situation at hand. So I would not think that 2 months would be the timeline. I would imagine it would be a lot longer. And
Well,
we're talking about a year or so. I think we may be looking at a little bit of not so much of a rush, and we're going to rush into anything if we're going to have that time.
Well, we are rushing because we're doing a search firm right now. We're not sure if it's going to take a year. Maybe we do a timeline and say, let's give it till December. Let's give it to the spring. So we're taking a guess, but we're saying about a year. So we're doing a search firm right now within a month. We are doing a rush. It is a rush.
Morales.
Go ahead, Mr. McCannat.
I think if we think back on what our previous superintendent search was, it's not a rush. And while I certainly understand Mr. Guerra's concerns, I think to position it that way is to put over a cloud this district that doesn't even exist. I mean, there's a TE investigation, but I think any superintendent who would choose to come here would know the difference between, an investigation where, that would tarnish the reputation of the district, and something that just needs a corrective action plan that needs to be executed, and who can undertake that effort to do so. We're not hiring a superintendent right now. We're not even recruiting one. We're trying to determine whether we submit a request so that the experts who can come to us and propose to us, and we can ask them that question. Do you think it's bad for us to search for someone right now? Do you think we'll get high quality candidates? Do you think that this TA investigation is going to discourage candidates from applying? We can ask them all of that before we even engage any of them. All we're doing is saying, we need a superintendent, we have an opening, we need help, because none of us knows how to recruit a superintendent. You know, we also don't have the connections to do so either. All we're doing is asking, hey, who's interested in helping us? And we're waiting to see who raises their hand. The timeline is a proposal so that we know what direction we're going in. That's also not written in stone either. We can extend it, we can protract it, we can, you know, maybe the superintendent search firms will tell us your timeline's unreasonable. Okay, nothing is written in stone. We can come back a week from now in another board meeting and change it all together. But if we choose not to move forward with this, we're just, you know, neutralizing ourselves. We're just waiting to wait and taking no action, which I don't think is the right way to go. So,
Mr. Morales, and just to
Go
add
ahead,
to
Mr. Barrett, go ahead.
to what's being said, I mean, I think if we're all looking for one either way, if a superintendent wants to come to this district under an investigation, to me that speaks highly of him or her, because they're willing to take that challenge on.
And I just want to volunteer this information. Certainly, the board can make a selection and ask that company to wait until they deem it's the time to move forward. I mean, that's certainly an option.
Morales.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead,
But
Mr. Nahara.
question, Mr. Reza, this is the request for solicitation, right?
Yes,
We're not
sir.
even selecting anybody yet. We're not, that comes under separate action at a separate date. This is just
To move
to
forward.
allow to publish the request.
That's correct. And gather and receive solicitations and so forth.
We have a motion in a second?
Yeah, just to reiterate, we had a motion by Mr. Michael Nahara and a second by Mr. Ricardo Castellano. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Our next item is 9C, discussion and possible action on the hiring of an external auditor to conduct a full review of our district. It's got myself as a presenter, but Mr. Ricardo Castellano will go ahead. I'll yield it to him.
I asked this item to be placed on the agenda, especially in light of where our district is at right now. We need the information from the district that an external auditor can provide us that's unbiased, that we can make proper decisions up here. We can present to the constituents the health of our district, and we can take that information and give it to the next superintendent so he can see what needs to be addressed. The external auditor is just going to provide recommendations on where we're at. And if there are issues that need to be addressed, they will be brought to the attention. It's an unbiased approach to look at this district, where there's no fear of retaliation for speaking out and speaking forward, and we need that at this time. I brought up the point about the TEACS training, and I understand there was an audit where programs were duplicated or not being utilized. And that's what an external auditor will also identify, our efficiency. Are we performing to the task that's at hand? Are we providing the best customer service available? Where are our deficiencies? I did not ask how much in programs that we purchased that were not being utilized at all. I didn't get that dollar amount, but I'm sure it's substantial because these programs aren't cheap. We are here to support everything you all need to get the education done, but if you ask for it, it needs to be utilized. But if we're not utilizing it, we don't know up here, and we're just approving more programs to come forward. So this external audit will allow us to look at that. It also covers the compliance. Of course, we're already under TEA, but it goes beyond that. It will go into our financials. It'll go into our technology, ensure the security of our systems. Are we in place? Are we doing the best possible forward? This external audits aren't quick. Of course, it's going to take a while, and we can get them in motion now to address the issues when the superintendent comes online. And I'm sure it's going to take 6 to 8 months to run an external audit on a district this big, but it's something we all need, and if it shows that there are minor changes, it shows we are doing a good job. If it shows there are substantial changes that need to be made, we owe that to the people, to the students, to the constituents, to do the best job possible. And that's why I'm proposing this to move forward. Do you all have any comment or anything right now at this time? I can still keep talking.
Morales?
Go ahead, Mr. Michael Nahara, go ahead.
So with an education, a formal education in accounting, I don't agree with an external audit. I mean, it's standard practice. I don't disagree, I'm sorry. I don't disagree with an external audit. It's a standard practice in accounting. It finds things that you may not know that you're doing wrong. It may find things, you know, that are broken processes, you know, things that, I know sometimes things that we found were people just doing the same thing that they did last year because it's what they did for the last 10 years or 12 years or 15 years. It's not because, you know, and somebody forgot to mention, oh, by the way, this regulation changed. It could be, you know, a reporting requirement that we've maintained for the last 20 years, and we didn't have to, but yet we were expending the resources, financial, human capital, et cetera, maintaining computer systems to do things that we didn't have to do anymore. So while I don't disagree with that component of it, it's always great to get a disinterested, an uninvested, an unemotional attached third party. I don't think this is the way to go about it, though. I mean, this, everybody up here, I think, is very interested in transparency. And so if you think about the superintendent search, and by the way, a typical financial external audit ran about 4 to 6 weeks. A hospital system about the size, budget, the size of this district would run about $1 million. So if, just based on the and the work effort as well, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of resources. And so to think just that an audit would run 3 to 6 months, imagine the cost there. So if the board were to approve this, what we're approving essentially is a blank check for work that we don't even know what the scope is. What are they gonna look at? Where do we think the issues are? Initially, what we should do, just think about the superintendent search, the request for proposal for a superintendent search that we just discussed. That's where we need to start. We need to publish the solicitation. We need to have firms that are qualified to do this. We need to publish what those qualifications are. They need to describe to us what they will do, what they've done in the past, who else they've worked with, what their findings were. If we have concerns with compliance, then we need to make sure that's part of the scope. If we have concerns with, our financial audit, which we get a yearly audit, so I know that's not gonna happen. But right now, this says nothing. It says a full audit of the district. What exactly does that mean? So we owe it to the community to get those requests for proposals, understand what it is, and to be able to explain to it what we're expecting for them to review. And then, does it include them helping us resolve those issues, or is that, something completely different? Again, I don't agree with the concept. I don't disagree with the concept. I don't disagree with the approach. I don't disagree for the necessity. Any good, and I keep saying agree, huh? I don't disagree with it. Any good organization does that, introspective review, that audit, to make sure that what you think you're doing is the right thing, and you have confirmation from somebody else. But I think there's a process that we need to follow. And this just isn't where we start. It starts with the request for a proposal to obtain these services.
Mr. Morales. Mr. Nakara,
Go
with
ahead,
all due
Mr.
respect,
Go ahead.
I disagree. It's just like you said, right now we're not writing a check out, we're just getting the ball rolling to see what we're gonna do, and at that point, then we'll
That's
say.
not what this says.
That's exactly what it's saying. We still.
No, it doesn't.
There's gonna come to a
Discussion
point
and
where we're gonna have
possible
to
action
agree on the
Well,
amount
hiring
that
would
we're
be
gonna
on
go ahead and do for the
hiring
audit.
of an external auditor.
Let's not talk over one another. Let's one at a time, please.
That's what we're gonna have to talk about later on at a later date. If we approve this, at that point, we'll talk about the amount, whether we agree with it then, just like you got done saying about the superintendent right now.
The motion could be made to request the RFP, like you just suggested. And we can look into that, and we can define the scopes that's necessary.
Okay.
See, this is not, yes, we haven't made the motion on this yet. So we can request the RFP on an external audit, and then we can go forward from there. We can define the scope and what we need, because to be fair, we all need more information on where the district is standing, as well as our superintendent. Yes, sir.
I have a quick comment, if I may. When was the last time external audit done on this district? I would imagine I would send that question to you.
I can answer part of it. The answer is never. We've not had a full-blown district-wide audit. We do audit certain areas. Finance, for one, is obviously required by law to be done. And we've had other audits that have been done, special audits. To Mr. Nahda and Mr. Castellanos' point, if you want to do this, you certainly can. I do think it would require that you issue and publish a request for qualifications or proposals. And maybe in there, ask for a list of areas, just off the top of my head when you all were talking about it, in no particular order. I'm not saying these are areas of need, but they could be. Finance, which we know is done annually, technology, curriculum and instruction, child nutrition, special populations, facilities, human resources. You have a various number of departments, and an auditor will have to come in and say, okay, we are proposing to conduct the audit in this way on these areas. Here's the cost. If you want this is what it's going to cost you. This is the timeline. If you want this, option B, here's what it costs. Here's the timeline. They can do it. Organizations have, and I've been involved, where companies and businesses have done complete company-wide audits. So it can be done, but you need to consider areas, cost, and time.
Mr. Blanco?
I think it's important to also put the scope. What are we looking at? We have these agreed upon attestation audits that can be done. What is the board's desire? What do you want to look at? I mean, because that will help the external auditor or whoever's going to submit a proposal to see, okay, they're going to be looking, they want us to do this, this, and this. They can look at their schedule. They can see how many people they can assign. They can determine how many hours it's going to take to do the audit. And then they can submit a proposal. So the more information from the board that we get about what is the desired end, the better, before we do the solicitation, because that's going to drive a lot of what proposals we receive.
I think
And you're right. I think we've done it for various departments. One that comes to mind is when I just really got hired here. This was 2009. We did an audit on our bond programs. We went ahead and did a solicitation. We hired a firm. I think it cost us about $45,000. But they underestimated the number of hours. They actually did a lot more hours than they anticipated. And so they ate some of the cost. But again, it's important to know what is the desire so that we can either include that in the scope of what services they're going to provide in the audit.
I mean, but if it sounds to me like it's just, it's something that we need to, like the board up here, we can't, I would say, I wouldn't know where to direct these folks. And so I would be interested in moving forward with the RFQ so that we know what the potential is. And then once we get that, then we can have an informed discussion about what the options are, what the possibilities are, et cetera. So, Mr. Blanco, if we were to make a motion for that RFQ, what would it be like?
You'd have to authorize the administration to issue the RFQ seeking proposals from firms to audit the district, and then allow the administration, I would suggest, to break out departments. We have a list of departments. You can go to the website and see it, include that list of departments, and then let the audit firms that are interested in doing it, and I imagine you're going to get some, come in and say what they would propose, because we don't, to Mr. Ressa's point, we don't know how deep they want to dig, how many hours they want to spend, or what they think it will require. So unless you have like a very specific thing, and you were to say, okay, we want to audit curriculum and instruction for compliance with the education code. All right, the firm could come in and say, we've done this. This is what it costs at a district this size. If you tell them, we want you to come in and audit curriculum and instruction, that's the only statement that you make to them. Yeah,
They're going to want to know, what is that?
I make a motion.
So what
Mr.
Mr.
Blanco, and I would like to make a motion and just move for clarification and just table the item.
But we're clarifying it right now.
Well, it's not
Yes.
on the item, it's not clarified, so I'll just table the item. Put a next agenda item, next board meeting, and just clarify it and table it.
If you want to table it, obviously the board can vote to do that, and you can take it up at another time. If you want to get it moving, you could issue it and just wait to see what comes back. I don't know what you're gonna get back. If it's very broad and all you're listing as departments, the range of proposals is gonna be wide, is my concern.
Can I make a recommendation? Can we table this for a month while we get information from the board to see what they're looking at, and perhaps it'll allow us to start working on the scope of the services they're gonna be provided? Because this is gonna be very broad, and I think it's important to see what is the objective. You know, what are we looking at? Are we looking at adherence to certain regulations, certain procedures? Are we just, when you talk about compliance, that has to do with the regulatory guidelines or laws. Are we complying with those, like HIPAA or Department of Labor's? I mean, those are things that are also compliant. So, I mean, it'll allow us to gather some more information of what the intent is and help us to maybe come up with something a little bit more tight.
Mr. Morales, if I may.
Go ahead, Ms. Nahad.
Mr. Reza, are you talking about possibly attending each of our committee meetings to get board input? Or are you talking about having a special board meeting to where these qualifications are all that the board discusses? I mean,
Whatever's desired by the board. I mean, I think if we have a workshop, it probably will work a little bit better because it'll be a little bit more efficient. And we can start seeing what the desire. Or I can attend the different committee meetings and so forth.
I personally feel like a workshop with all of the board in the same place at the same time would give us a better understanding of what we're looking at and what areas we want to look into.
So in the meantime, I would like to make the motion to table the item for clarification.
We'd have to establish the board, workshop or in the motion.
There's
We
still a
want to
motion on the
table.
table. We
If
need
I
to
may,
ask
I'm
for a
going to make a
second.
quick comment here. One of the things that I think we overlooked was the fact that we are under an investigation from the TEA, and in that they are doing an audit of our curriculum instruction. I do know that, and so that is something that we may not need to have somebody audit for one. Secondly, we also get our finances audited on a yearly basis. So those would be two areas that we can probably not, delete or so with that said, I think that if anyone else would want to make
There's
a
a motion on
motion
the
of
table.
some type.
There's a motion on the table, so we need to ask for a second.
Motion is pending in Mr. Guerra's motion.
There was a motion by Mr. Guerra to table this item
For clarification.
for clarification. Don't have a second, so we're going to go ahead.
Morales,
Mr. Nahad, go ahead.
So, if we were, I mean, I think we just had Chief Castorena and the entire Security and Safety Committee up here, looking at or with a review of their action. If we were to propose a safety and security audit, it would not be up to this board for us to decide what we're going to look at in safety and security. Again, I think that by issuing the RFQ, it's just that. And yes, we can have a board shop later, but once we get responses, I'm not afraid of the RFQ. I'm not afraid of the audit either. I think it's a way to educate ourselves. And yes, it's a broad net. It's a very broad net. But if we get the right people responding to us, you know what? We're not the only district asking for this audit if we do move so. It'll be people who have done this before. They're the ones that are going to come to us. If we were looking at where we should install cameras, we'd hire a security firm, and they would tell us exactly where to put the cameras. We wouldn't say, well, I want one right here. No, they're going to make the suggestions for us. We're doing the exact same thing here. We're just casting the net, saying, okay, come to us. You tell us what you can offer. You tell us what we should be considering. And then at some point, we can take all that information, absorb it, discuss it in a workshop, and then we define what the scope is. But we've also got an idea of what the cost is going to be too, and they can also share with us, look, these are the problem areas. You don't need finance. You get finance done once a year. You don't need, whatever the TEA audit is, or maybe they come back and say, well, you know what, I know they're looking at that, but that's a very limited scope. We need more. So again, I'm just saying,
that the RFQ doesn't commit us to anything. It just helps us get more informed. And then once we have that information, then we could have a workshop and discuss what the alternatives are, you know, what the options are, et cetera.
Ms. Macias just whispered in my ear a good point. As part of the RFQ, you could include as one of the items for proposal for those firms to make a proposal on what areas they would say should be audited or could be audited. They might tell you, to your point, that finance doesn't need to be done because it's audited every year. And then when you get those responses back, the board meets, talks to the firms, listens to it. If you don't have enough information from that response to the RFQ, or if the firms come back and say, hey, this is too broad, we can't give you a price, then you can have a workshop to whittle it down. And maybe
Mr. Blunt.
work towards something.
So what would that motion sound like?
Just a motion to authorize the administration to issue an RFQ for proposals to conduct audit of various departments within the district. And then
So
they can
moved.
issue it.
You could,
That's my
can I have a
motion.
motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
What do you say?
Yes, sir.
Can we
Second.
go ahead and use that? As,
Second
You
over there.
know, is that what
okay.
You have that written down?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could, we
Write
could
it
have
down
Mr.
for us.
I
we
knew
could
he
have
would.
Mr. Nahara just to be official, to have him read it out here.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
We have a motion by Mr. Nahara, and we have a second
Second.
by Mr. Pablo Barrera. Are there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Blanco.
Thank you.
Mr. Reza, thank you. We're going to move to item 10, executive session. The meeting is to be closed for discussion with legal counsel to discuss personnel and real estate matters and to consider administrative recommendation for assistant principal position at Socorro High School under Texas Government Code Section 551.071 and 551.072 and 551.074. The time is 8:34, and we're going to go ahead and 24th. We are back in session. The time is 9:15. We've got we're going to go ahead and move to 11, new business. Consider approval of administrative recommendations. Ms. Mortesy Carmona.
President Morales, members of the board, administration recommends Erica Olivas to assume the role and responsibilities as the new assistant principal of Socorro High School.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Michael Nahara and a second by
Right here.
Mr.
Mena.
Mena. Are there any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further business for this board. The meeting is adjourned at 9:16.